But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, everyone. Welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable. This is episode 80. The subject is IoT. Welcome. Hosts for today are Lisa Mighty Davis, owner of the new Mighty Lair, Satoshi Sean, entrepreneur and everyone's friend, Greg from Rivet, Dave from Den.Social, and I, Joe, and your master of ceremonies for today, the founder architect of Dragon Chain. First quick update on the Lair ownership tokens, NFTs, from last week's episode. So each host from last week will receive 150 lot. Every topic contributor, 75 lot. Last week's original theme was the sandbox, nominated by Jacob Wayne, who will receive 75 lot. These ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits in the roundtable layer, and governance votes to decide how to change the format or other things about the show here. So should be good. If anybody has any ideas for things, we haven't made many changes for a while. Maybe we should post something and just change up something for the new year. Maybe, I don't know. We should think about that, right? Okay. So theme of the week is IoT. So get that in your head. There are some good questions there. But the first question is on current events. So does anyone have any current events that they want to cover outside of SBF, WEF, and WW3?
Right.
So
there's always Twitter, right? Which has been under an interesting bit of pressure recently, given the fact that they've apparently turned off now all of the related blocks, and that's something that they haven't done here yet. So I had to say, but excuse me.
Now they just make your video break up to censor you, it looks like.
Well, that's good. But it's been an interesting. I don't know if you guys have been on watching it, but one particularly useful thing for denizens, right, is it's actually drawn the attention from folks like Elon and Snowden now, the sort of the plight of people suffering under Gensler, which to me is a promising sign that people will start to pay attention to that aspect of it and sort of get off of the Bankman fraud issue. I mean, I know it's really annoying that people at New York Times were applauding him yesterday instead of.
I was just watching that interview.
Cuffs, but like
that New York Times interview.
Let's bring that question up anyway, because that's a good segue into the first question from Coin Surprise. Got 46,000 energy on that. What is the group consensus on FTX, SBF, and U.S. politics? Was FTX set up by a U.S. political party to steal and launder money for them? Was there a plan for FTX to fail so regulation would be more widely accepted?
I want to believe that because it's a convenient narrative.
I think there's so much more. That may be one part of it, but there were many like never waste a good emergency or whatever
that's what I think. Yeah, never waste a
crisis.
Good crisis going used.
Yeah, there were many dark things that were done with this.
You guys familiar with the idea of a run book?
No.
It's like a playbook, but the idea is a scenario in which a thing that you want to do applies and shows up on your radar because it happens, and then you do the thing. So they busted out their run book and made sure to frame FTX, which is clearly an asset-backed derivatives company, right? Because when you give them your crypto, you're pooling it. Yeah. You're pooling it in in a wallet that is then represented digitally on their databases. You're not every time you do a trade, you're not moving from account to account using a smart contract. What you're doing is you're buying and selling the digital objects in their repositories, in their data stores, which make them asset backed.
Which is what legacy finance has been doing for years. Exactly. With derivatives.
So the fact that they loaned them out.
Every single centralized crypto exchange does this. So
right, exactly. And it's they claim you're yield farming, but you're not really yield farming. You're just letting them have permission to lend your shit out. Right. It is fractional reserve derivatives. Mm-hmm. And the reserve was in FTX's case stolen and used elsewhere. So
I think we're all in agreement on this that FTX is not really crypto. It involved it used crypto. It was basically a whatever you'd call a traditional financial thing that had crypto as one of its hype factors, and also one of the ways that they were able to secretly do things, right? So the crazy thing to me is that, well, for one, and I say this over and over again, that shame on the crypto industry for surviving this long and in pursuit of a number go up, constantly basically pushing shit like SBF and FTX constantly. It's like you go a year back, and if you were to say anything that these people are saying now, you would just like, oh no, it's great, everybody's making money, right?
FUD, it's just FUD. They're fine. It's all fine.
Joe. I think
here's the thing. You name for me. They're not even using. Okay, it's fine. They're centralized. There's some efficiencies to Binance for you, but they aren't even fucking using crypto. They don't even know shit about crypto. You can look when they had the Bitcoin hack, and CZ, God bless him for what happened with FTX. CZ wanted to fork or to roll back Bitcoin to recover funds. And I'm like, this guy's heading up the largest fucking crypto exchange, and he doesn't understand that about fucking Bitcoin. And everybody just blows it off, and nobody even brings this shit up again.
I've been thinking about this just so many huge things, just taking a step back. And I think the truth is not as simple as I'd like to believe it. That's the kind of thing I've been thinking about. There's so many, I think, little things that happened that, just like Lisa said, nefarious groups like, oh, we can use this. And I went back far because I've had some I'd almost traumatic things the past couple of days, and it really got me thinking a lot about a lot of things, especially how we as Americans here, we always complain, and we know how bad things are here, and compared to how they should be, compared to how they were when we were growing up. I'm going to go off on a tangent. I'll get there, but I got to stop now. I really have had some weird things happen this past couple of days. But I think that like FTX happened. It's just like every sci-fi movie. The government finds out, oh, you're in trouble. Oh no, I'm in trouble. Please don't send me to jail. We're not going to send you to jail. We want you to do something for us. I think it's something similar to that, a useful idiot, and people have called him that many times.
Well, I mean, he's certainly going to be useful to them because they, you can't turn on the internet today and look at the news without seeing a story about crypto company FTX, FTX.
Like you said, Greg, I think people are seeing that we're suffering under the rule of Gensler.
Yeah,
I have a friend of mine who's in China. He's a dissident. He's fighting, hates the CCP, and he sends me like messed up stuff, dude, that you would not believe. I just sent like one thing to Lisa the other day, and She was like, it's a movie. It's not real. I'm like, nah, I know the guy that sent it. It's real.
Because, Sean, at the beginning of the Great Infection, do you remember the bodies laying in the streets and the people walking? And that didn't happen. It was bullshit. It was media that was being sent to us.
Yeah, but this was like, this was a back alley. This wasn't a big thing.
And I think that's what we're seeing again. Did you see the guy with the big logo?
I think personally, it's what I think happened. This is my massive conspiracy hat. This is my tinfoil hat nuts thing.
Bullshit.
I think that I don't know. And this ties into what I was going to go getting to, that Hong Kong, so you remember all the protests, and China was really getting pissed, and there were protesters out in force, and they were all waving American flags, and there's even a meme that be the America that they think we are. Anyway, the great gingivitis outbreak happened. All that stopped, all the protests, all that movement, and that was a wave. It was like massive momentum. It stopped in its tracks, and I think that what if that was just the plan? That was the whole thing. But then every other, government's like, hey, wait a minute, look at this crisis over here. Because I've been around for a long damn time. I'm old. Lisa and Public Awakening were making fun of me because I'm an old man.
I make fun of you because you say you're an old man.
Anyway,
you're not an old man.
He said I would be a good old man, but okay. Anyway, I think they were like, hey, look what's happened. Because, like I said, I've been around a long time. There's been tons of, these huge outbreaks and these pandemics, but they're always over there. They're always with those people, and we don't care. Saturday Night Live makes skits about it, and that's as far as it goes in the U.S. when I was growing up. Oh, the bird flu. Oh, the swine flu. Oh, what? You know what I mean? It's always over there, and we don't give a crap. We never gave a crap. Nothing ever happened. Look at how those people just wear those masks, these weird masks like doctors wear. They just wear them out, in regular life. Isn't that strange? Isn't that a weird culture over there? That's how we were. That was our culture. We were the Wild West, the pioneers, a mask that when you're not doing surgery, that's nuts. That's how we were. And there was always that kind of stuff going on. And this time, I think maybe that stopped all that momentum, and all the other evil governments who have gotten nothing but evil in my lifetime said, hey, man, what if we latch onto this? What if we push this? And they did. That's my opinion.
So can I ask this? Because you guys seem to think that this is a reactionary tale, that this happened in the crypto world, even though but there was no plan. Now, here's my thing. When I'm looking at what's going on, so first of all, when I first saw a couple weeks back that SBF was scheduled for this New York Times book thing, right? And it up on the picture, it was him, and it was Yellen, it was Zelensky. And I'm thinking, okay, you have all these people here, and it's like, that seems like, okay, surely that was scheduled before, so he's not going to appear. It's like, oh no, he's going to fucking appear. And I'm thinking, then he's literally making the rounds. He's on Good Morning America, I think this morning, right? I've not seen that yet. He was on. Anyway, he's been going.
Deaton had a comment about that.
Yes,
that's part of his cover.
It makes far more sense to me that this guy was set up as a patsy. He's going to make whatever he can make out of it the time he's in there. And we're going to make sure you get fluff pieces. We're going to make sure you don't actually deal with anything, because the more like they are New York Times.
I think it's out of necessity. I think
the media is trying to push and here's the thing. If he were a real crypto guy, right? If it was Greg that had done that, would he be getting puff pieces by the New York Times? Fuck no.
No.
Fuck no. Why?
Unless of course, I had already donated an ass load of money to the powers that be. And moreover, and this is the point, had this not happened, right? Had FTX continued to operate normally and they'd continue to get away with it because the markets were up or something, they still had the bill that they want to pass, right? Like the trick is right now they're trying to rehabilitate that guy because they want to pass the legislation that allows them to say, okay, we have regulations for crypto, and what it looks like is this. You have to have a third-party intermediary that can interact, It's one of the rules. And you have to have a custodian of keys. So DeFi now has to, in order to continue to exist, bolt on backdoors into the smart contracts and put someone in charge who is a registered person in the system. You have to hand over the smart contract control to somebody approved of by a bank charter or a government authorization of some sort, a broker's license, whatever, right? Depending on the thing, we've got a flavor of it. Point being, what they want is for the part of crypto that can be built to not have any chance of anybody intervening like this. They want to make sure that somebody can stick their finger.
They want to keep that accredited investors thing in there. They
Right,
want to
really,
make sure there's always a caste system in this economy. They want to make sure the market makers are the market makers. They want to make sure their buddies are in the seats and the little people don't have a chance. They don't want free market.
Which I've asked Greg as a lawyer. I since I was a kid, I learned about the accredited investor. It seems like such a basic thing to me. I don't understand how it's legal. I don't understand why there hasn't been a challenge of the law. I don't understand why there hasn't been a.
It emerges from a time period when Americans were, one, just becoming financially literate, right, and two, not able to access timely communications about the market. Like
the basis for our country is to be allowed the pursuit of happiness.
Right, exactly.
You only allow
these protections went in.
Have that pursuit.
True.
That's unconstitutional.
Protections went in as part of a PR campaign, right?
I remember being like 14 or 15 and be like, that doesn't jive with what this says over here.
So we just did an interview with Nick Morgan from ICANN, which is it's an advocacy group or a pro bono for crypto people that are fighting the SEC or the SEC is attacking them or whatever. And I'm sorry that I can't remember the exact name of the organization.
We should look that up. In fact, I wanted to see if you would be able to even intro us or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. He said that they just filed another amicus in a different case addressing the accredited investor piece, fighting against it and to remove that. That's completely.
Because if you notice, it was absurd to begin with. You had to have $2 million worth of wealth and or make over 300 grand
and
years,
moreover, you can't count your the equity of your home either.
Yeah,
and if you're a homeowner, you can't count that.
After everything happened with crypto, there were all these crypto millionaires, and they were pushing to make it 25 million.
Right, to cut everybody out.
And I shared an article in the private chat where the CFTC is now speaking in like Singapore or something, but they want to implement a 2-tier thing where the normal people, retail investors shouldn't be have the same rules as multimillionaires and whatever. You need to protect them with a broker and whatever. And I was like, oh, no.
You need to protect them with a fee taker.
But everybody, I see this narrative lately where everybody's, bashing the SEC, and trust me, I am no fan. But then they think, let's run to the CFTC. They're just asking, like when we used to say, pick your spies, pick your ruler.
I had someone say that this morning to me. They can't wait for the CFTC to come in. It's like, okay. I said, yeah, well, the thing is, there is no regulatory body for software. Now, fine, if you're going to use software for banking, guess what? There's banking regulations for purposes, right? If you're going to use a software to maintain your healthcare, there's stuff that deal with healthcare. But guess what? Software itself does not need, nor should it have, a regulatory agency. And if you're just going to,
that goes back to what we were talking about.
Well, I mean,
how it's like there's existing laws, like every mass shooting or whenever something happens, like, we need this. Murder's already illegal. This stuff's already illegal. They're already illegal, man.
Right. And the point of this technology, moreover, is to replace
whatever the underlying problem
those people.
You know what we should do?
But those that are in power just want to grab more power.
We should start a movement.
It's the basic thing of, this is a crisis. Let's try and push whatever we can get out of it.
Oh, yeah. But you know how there's crime, but then there's hate crime, right? So why don't we make it hate regulation? That the reason that they are doing this is because I am not of the same religion or ethnic background of these people, and they hate
American innovation.
They're trying to regulate me.
Well, right. I mean, there's a genuine concerted effort right now in the world to halt wealth creation, what people call growth, and what most people think of as a zero-sum game, as they fall prey to the fixed pie fallacy. Like, growth equals wealth creation, right? It's the same damn thing. And what we're trying to do as a whole enterprise, the whole crypto project, is to unlock that by nullifying the gatekeepers, so that everybody can build wealth without first asking permission or being in a favored class.
That is part of it, but it isn't only that. Because not all of crypto is about wealth.
No, I mean, I'm not talking about wealth creation in the sense that people are trying to make money off of number go up. I'm talking about it in the sense that people are trying to build things that, I mean, why didn't the internet replace finance? Why didn't the internet fix customs? Why didn't the internet fix all these things that it could have fixed? Ensconced monopoly, right? Yeah. So in order to get them out, we need a system that can disintermediate them, a way to nullify the fact that they can usually point guns at you to stop you.
You can see when those things were being improved and how that improvement was thwarted in the name of whatever, protecting the kids, protecting these people, regulating this. It's all you can see when how big freedom was getting. I mean, you really got to boil stuff down and try and keep things as simple as possible. And it's always like I can see so much clearer when I just try to make it as simple as possible. It's like, oh, it's obvious what happened there. It's obvious who was looking to gain from that. And it reality does, or perception does really make reality. We complain and we think things are so terrible, and I feel embarrassed when I talk to other people, and they're all, oh, you're so lucky, you're so lucky, you're so lucky you live there. They have their perception is that things are a lot better here than they are, and it makes me feel terrible because that's the fuel that helps them to go on to fight. That's they're literally putting their lives on the line fighting like the CCP or at other places in the world, because they have this romantic idea of how perfect things are and how we are.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, right? I don't know if they think it's perfect here. I think that the romanticized version of it is a version they have to tell themselves in order to keep.
Yeah, that's their perception, but that's what keeps them.
I don't think that they would get here and be disillusioned with that. I think they would get here go back to war.
But still, it's like I can't. There's no way we could complain. There's no way.
Well,
I feel like a white girl complaining about first world problems.
We absolutely
there is genuinely problems here, but when you talk to other people, it's like you can't.
Yeah.
It's like they're a kid or has some kind of innocence, and you don't want to squash that.
But if the world is an engineering project, right? Like if you think of the whole thing, the whole human project is one giant, very disorganized, decentralized engineering project, then complaints are how you find issues that get registered and addressed, right? Complainers solve that first problem. Now, nobody likes to listen to them, and it's usually better to have a little bit of sugar with your medicine. And so somebody comes with like a positive attitude about being able to fix it and maybe a suggestion that's not even very good. Then we'll typically think about it more readily. But the worst part is really the perverse incentives, right? The fact that to fix the broken thing, we have to unwind perverse incentives. And there are people out there who have literally dedicated their lives to making it sound like these perverse incentives are actually good side effects of a good thing, right? And that what we need to do is we need to double down on finding and stopping bad people, when in reality what we need to do is rewrite the architecture so that bad people aren't possible.
Greg, that makes me think of, man, is there's a lot of so like the people that you're talking about, right? The people that you're talking about that have dedicated their lives to making it seem like that's all a very good thing. they can talk about stuff that folks do not understand in a way that makes it sound really fucking good.
Yep.
Right. And it's convincing in much the same way that I saw Sam Bankman-Fried talking to the New York Times in that interview you were talking about. I watched the first 40 minutes of it. This morning I watched the first 40 minutes of it and I had to turn it off because it was such, to me,
it belonged on Pornhub. They were just jacking them off.
You know, yeah. And so, but you, in the same way that he was talking about something that people don't understand, cryptocurrency, blockchain, people don't understand really what happened, why it happened, technically what he was doing personally, not just this idea that he has and he likes to put out about like, oh, because I'm the CEO, of course I'm responsible. As if it's an indirect responsibility, as if he wasn't specifically defrauding.
He should have had someone in charge of Alameda, the blah, blah, blah.
And so he's able to talk about things in a way that are
they didn't have payroll,
zoomed out and sort of abstract enough for people to be like, oh, he's not such a bad guy. He just had a bad day.
People's perception, which shapes reality.
Oh, totally. And I will tell you two things on this. One of the things that triggered me thinking, I think this is more planned book than I even thought, because you're even looking at this when they're panning the audience in that event. Everybody's dressed in a suit and stuff, and I'm sure they are at 2,500 a head, but it looks like it's a freaking scripted. To me, it's like the whole thing looked like it's scripted. You don't have people with shit like at a conference or something dressed different. They look like they're all in uniform. So that beyond it's the fact that this, SBF was not a builder. I mean, you could say, okay, as a business person, he built this empire that stole all this money. Okay. But in the crypto world, when we are distracted from fundamentals, this is the shit you get. If you're it's the same as worshiping a celebrity because of their fame. You're worshiping a trader because he made money supposedly trading, even though you even look at the people who early in the days questioned, did he really make money doing that? Or was it all, I can't remember the dude's name that he called him out months ago, and that, there's no backing for the stories of, oh, he was an arbitrage trader and he made a bunch of money that way. And he's a genius because of this. And
they said he couldn't even open his email.
But, yeah. Oh no, that was his excuse, right? I can't open my work email. That's why, or I didn't figure out how to open my work email on my BlackBerry, so I had to use my home email for talking to my pal over at MF Global.
Was that
Frequency says right? His comment there: maximize human potential, give the power back to people. It's all like simple. When you step back, things are so simple. Now that's my train of thought. But something that Joe was saying. I wanted to build off that, but I'm still so rattled about stuff that's going on. How fragile. It scares me how fragile everything is, how fragile movements are. I remember talking to Lisa months and months ago about when things were really censored. And I was like, we have like hardly no champions of free speech. And it's weird. You've got like Joe Rogan. Think about like Fear Factor, and he's like a goofy comedian. Him, Elon Musk, and like Russell.
That guy's a freaking rock star right now, man.
But I was thinking about how like one magazine and one gun could end all the champions of free speech at any time, and how that is just horrifying.
I don't think that's true, though. I think you'd make a martyr of any of them.
But you have enough martyrs. How many martyrs do we have in the past decade?
Personally, I don't want the guy who's building the Mars escape hatch for all the people who know how to build stuff. Like, that's our way out, right? Leave all the people who don't know how to build and don't know how to work here, and say, you can come to Mars if you can get there.
But I think Joe's got the point, man. People are different, and how many martyrs do we have?
Too many.
And even the martyrs in the past,
they make them look crazy. Look what they did to McAfee.
Well, and I'll tell you too.
Look at Martin Luther King Jr.
The whole thing is theater.
Everything he stood for.
Yeah,
it's like it would scoffed at now.
Aaron Schwartz.
Yeah, it's weird to see the effective herding of cats. So I don't know how you want to say it, but like somebody was talking about Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, things like that. And like, I haven't been alive that long, you know, I'm in my late 30s. That's it. And I've already seen this, like, and some of it wasn't even slow, but like Joe Rogan's one of them. This is a guy that supported Bernie Sanders in 2 different elections.
Dude, this guy used to be on Fear Factor.
And people were successfully convinced that all of a sudden, like, people, that right wing like fascist podcaster Joe Rogan, you know, and I'm like, he's objectively left, like maybe not way left like you are, but like I don't know about that. And or he used to be anyway. I don't know. Maybe he's changed on that, but if he changed on that, it was because of what the left turned into.
I don't think that he changed political views. The left left everybody behind that used
and
to be
Elon is similar,
like, kind of
you know, like Elon was like Elon was like the guy that was like, I mean, he was doing crazy shit and he was saying crazy shit, but he was doing the things that the people wanted.
He was more centrist. I think
he was really
saying
crazy shit.
Solar power and electric cars.
People just didn't change. These people, like, look at Bill Maher. Bill Maher used to be the most wacko left-wing nut. But he's
a riot to watch. He's changed. He just sure.
Yeah, he didn't. Everything else changed around him. And he was like, "What are you doing?"
Or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
You're not supposed to say that. We're supposed to talk about. We're the left. We're like free speech.
Maybe I get caught up in that too, because I feel like Bill Maher.
I think people get wrong if they think of him as on the political spectrum. Like, I don't think
Bill Maher says it all the time.
He's
like, I said this 15 years ago, and I'll say it today. I said this 22 years ago, and I'll say it today.
So two
he
things.
Really didn't change that much.
That's
are you familiar with the book "The Future and Its Enemies" by Virginia Postrel?
No.
It's a good read. I'm rereading it right now. And the idea behind it was there are really the battle of the 21st century is going to be between 2 groups. It's going to be against dynamists and people called stasists. And the idea is, are we going to build our way to a better civilization, or are we going to fret about how much is too much and build a permission slip architecture around allowing things to exist? What if somebody invented a technology to save the world and the world refused to use it? Is the question.
I agree.
That's happened. I mean, it's like blockchain is at least one of those things.
That's one of those things. That's one of those things that anything like anything that can objectively demonstrate what the truth is, that is then fought against. Is like,
and you think about it. You think about
I don't know.
We've actually been in active discussions with people. When I say on both sides, on multiple sides of the aisle, okay, about election integrity. You know, and we're just there as, hey, look, I'm a technologist. I'm going to come in here. I might have political views, but the point is, with this system, you don't have to give a shit what my political views are because you can verify it. Right. And guess what? I mean, across the board, no one wants that. No one wants who's in a position to actually put it in place.
Yeah,
that's the thing with like trustless systems where you don't have to trust people and that kind of thing.
It's obvious, and what we've done is found ways to scale it, to make the proof solid, and to make it real, so you can actually integrate it in systems that are more real, right? So it's not we're not even talking about a pure decentralization. We're talking about decentralization of the proof and the timing and things like that. And it's precisely that. And by the way, I think what I would call the long war started in 1913, or at least thereabouts. That I think everything ties to that. Across the board, and everything since then has been a facade. Any of the stuff, all the politics in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, it's all
I've thought of that too, Joe, like myself, just independently thought like maybe this is still the same thing since then.
But it goes back to that video.
Basically.
Yeah, it goes back to the video you sent me, Dave, that Gensler was when he was teaching in MIT. He says what they're doing. And we had that interview and Reggie was on there and he was asking. So Nick Morgan's actually a former SEC attorney. And so it's ironic that now he defends me. But he was, Reggie was asking him, he goes, so tell me why it is that when that the fines are disproportionate for different people and groups and whatever. Like Kim Kardashian was fined. I don't remember the amount, but it was minimal
it was
in
like
comparison.
$1 million or something.
To her assets. They didn't break, but she's not a market disruptor. She's an Instagram model.
She was just delving into fashion NFTs,
right.
Which was actually
she's got a little bit more going on Instagram, but your point still
whatever.
stands.
She's not a market disruptor.
Likes Kim Kardashian.
Well, I mean, she did have they did an appropriate level of stoppage on what she was up to, right?
Okay,
like had they just let her go, fashion NFTs would be a use case.
What's the appropriate? Why didn't they use the same appropriate level of stoppage on Reggie? They financially destroyed him.
Well, because he's posing a threat to the structure
to the market makers. Yes.
Well, also, like we've been saying the whole time,
but they don't do that.
Perception makes reality, and you can make.
They don't do that with JP Morgan. They don't find the big banks like that.
Threat to just average people. They could maybe lose $20. It's not that big a deal, so that's why.
Okay, so then why don't they go after? Okay, then on the transverse, why don't they go after big banks and find big banks the way they find Reggie?
Yeah, they won't do that.
Proportionally, yeah, they won't.
The big banks are who they're protecting.
Yeah, it's
They
have to do something to save face occasionally.
They can form a reality and serve it up to people. They can rationalize anything.
It's all about protecting their market makers and their buddies.
It is, but I'm talking about why
the SEC has an enforcement department against crypto.
Why is there this disproportionate, fine? They can give a convincing argument to the masses. Right. They can form that reality for people, and people will just eat it up.
Right, exactly. The SEC has an enforcement department for crypto that's specifically designated. It makes up a good percentage of their staff, right?
And
the enforcement division is at least 50% dedicated to it.
And every one of them.
The market for crypto versus the derivatives market, which they should also be policing, what the relative value of all of crypto is versus the other things they regulate, 0.02%.
Right.
I mean, and they're dedicating all their resources.
Well, and guess what, Crypto Twitter? We now, because we want a number to go up, we now have paper Bitcoin. You can invest in paper Bitcoin all over the place now, right? Isn't that great?
It's I remember what I want to say.
Usury. Oh, it's like that thing that normal people have had to enslave themselves for generations. Now crypto can do usury also. Isn't that awesome?
Just wait. Pretty soon they're going to do under collateralization for lending. You're going to be able to borrow.
It's not as bad or as bleak as what you think. I think a lot of those people that, I'm the first one to say it. You can ask Lisa. I say it all the time. We built this house on a terrible foundation. If they hit Tether and they get Tether
is backing Alameda.
It's going to hurt so bad.
They're all involved.
But we've allowed it. Every exchange we built on it.
I'll tell you right now.
I hope it in our ecosystem.
I hope all the fucking bank use cases fail.
I think that's what this is.
Well, and now DAI can be broken by Coinbase.
But my point about the number go up people,
because DAI has been rehypothecating with if you step Coinbase back and USDC and
if you look at it, objectively, it's not just number go up. It's number go up is cool, but adoption. If we do this, if we make this concession, if we play with the devil here a little bit, we can get adoption. We can get the word out. Mom and Pop and Uncle Joe are to understand. They'll use it. They just need this little bit of centralization. They just need this. That's been a big part of giving in to the evil side of it and why things are as bad as they are. It's like everything else, man. When you compromise these smaller principles along the way, in hopes of greater principles,
guys,
it doesn't work.
Before we totally move on, there's one other subject that I think we really need to hit, just because it's so unnoticed. It's passing in the background. Do you guys mind if we jump to that before we jump into the questions?
Sure.
Okay. Have I talked to you all about the KOSA bill? It's the Kids Online Safety Act.
Nope.
Okay, so the Kids Online Safety Act is basically about making sure that the "Are you over 18?" Yes or no box is enforceable and meaningful, and they're going to require websites to capture everybody's identity and age verification. With this, it's KYC for the internet. so that they can enforce an automatic parental control on anybody who can't verify their identity that implies you're under the age of 16.
Yeah.
So they will decide what's appropriate for anybody to view that is not verified. Anyone under 16 is the line. And if you don't verify your identity, then you won't be able to see any content they consider inappropriate for 16 and under. And it's basically a way to forcibly create a giant database of people that have verified identity as part of accessing the entire web. Yeah. Like they're trying to make Web 3, but they're trying to make like a nightmare dystopian version of Web 3. This bill is before Congress right now, and they have it on the lame duck agenda. They're going to try to pass this before the new legislative session.
This is passing in China, right? You're talking about China?
No, this is the United States.
Oh, sounded a lot fucking like what they have today in China, where you have to submit to facial recognition to access the internet.
And it's what
your health passport.
If there are still places you can go and get the truth out there, let's just say 4chan, mixed with a lot of lies and
you gotta be willing to dumpster dive there. Exists. But there are some gems,
they want to be able to tie your browsing to that. It's like, oh, that's unsafe.
Speaking of the health passport thing, that's kind of crazy. So things are getting rough over in China. And sent me this video. Didn't know what it was because they're Chinese, yelling in Chinese. And these people around this woman, and they're pulling her pants down. And I was like, what? They pulled her pants down, and there was a baby in her underwear with an umbilical cord going up inside of her. Because even if you can't go to the hospital, which we did it here. I'll cry my eyes out if I start talking about it. But we did terrible things here in the United States just a year or 2 years ago, locking people out of hospitals. I was one of them. I almost died. I went to my hospital. There's 7 or 8 hospitals within 30 miles of me. And the emergency room said, we're going to send you to Baylor University. I'm like, why? And they said, no, if you don't have the gingivitis, you can't go to any hospitals won't accept you. No one's accepting anyone that doesn't have gingivitis. It's like, even though the beds are empty. So there's only a handful of hospitals in the state. We just sent a guy to Houston who had pneumonia like earlier today. So we did it here. But there, you can't go in the hospital unless you have, a test and you're negative. And if you're pregnant, you have to have an amniotic test that the baby is negative before you can go in. So if you show up in labor, you stand and sit in the parking lot or outside until that can go through. So there's people just popping them out in the parking lot, and it's people are making the comment that it's dehumanizing. It looks like watching a lion or a hyena give birth in the Serengeti. It's just,
well, then at what point do we say you're supposed to be medical experts? At what point do we hold medical experts accountable that this is not medical care?
Right. I mean,
that's nice. See, there you go. That's the wrong thing. That was the wrong question, because those medical experts are scared. You have to ask, why are they scared? Who is forcing them? Who is talking?
Who are you scared of?
Well, the bottom line is there's only one medical expert people should be listening to.
You either take the money from the big P, or you
take the stick from the government.
Potentially lose your license.
And that's the thing. The stick shouldn't have been there. The stick is supposed
but then
to
the
be
same
there.
Accountability that we scream at the military, and we say, if you follow through on that order, then shame on you.
Yeah.
You're
we've got to get past a blame society if we're ever going to advance, right? Like we need to always be looking forward to.
I wouldn't say we need to get past the blame society. I think,
or at least have not a blame first society.
To be real justice, I think it's entirely fine to find who is to blame.
Justice feels good, but it doesn't solve problems.
I disagree with that. I think real justice would.
Yeah.
I think like Joe said something about
it redresses wrongs, but it doesn't solve the problems created in government.
We should shame them. I think that's what we need to do. Change the narrative. I think when we talk about political corruption, it's a white collar crime. It's like nothing. I think when we talk about corruption, it should be revolting. We should have
Right.
like, oh,
We
did
should.
they kill him? What about his family? I know they're
And
in,
yet,
but maybe they should kill them too. I mean, it's
And
like
yet,
some things that we
right.
should make so terrible that and the justice for it so harsh that it is so taboo. We should use the word taboo for corruption.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
they need
we
to show the
absolutely should, but
videos
at the
of
same time, like that only
drugged
gets us halfway
children
there,
that are
right?
coming across the South border.
No, that's the
you know.
start. It might
That
only
only
get us
gets us
halfway there.
That's like
But-
not even.
but I'll tell you what,
The
if
problem is
people
like,
aren't doing
here's
the
my
crap
problem with
they're
it,
doing-
guys. With the idea that justice is the first primary concern. Justice puts people behind bars. Justice puts people on gallows. Justice takes care of redressing harms emotionally, but it doesn't really make things right in the sense that if you steal billions of dollars, it makes sure that person is not going to spend the rest of their lives making billions of dollars to pay you back. What it does is it makes sure that they go to a place where they make 50 cents an hour. We all feel a lot better, but the money's gone, right?
But Greg, it does put a significant point in history and time. If you think about, and I don't want to get the channel banned, but it starts with an N and it has some trials associated with it. That is a significant point in history and time. And it changed, at least for a point in time. This happened. It's an acknowledgement of the past. And that's what a lot of this, them rewriting the narrative and the history, taking down the statues and letting things happen all over again, us losing our history and part of the strength of Bitcoin and history being saved will help us have a brighter future.
Let's be careful the line between justice and vengeance.
At the end of a rope wouldn't solve what he did. No, but guess what? It would stop.
It will prevent
future effects.
Will it though? Because it doesn't seem to have a history of doing so.
It's like blockchain. It won't stop corruption, but it makes it easier to see. It may not stop it, but it will.
And I'm not arguing for amnesty for people that do bad shit. I'm just saying, like, it tends to be the most popular distraction when it comes to coming up with solutions.
That's the other thing too, because the solution offered by our own industry,
it's an excuse to get regulators more money,
has not at all been in the right, because we knew this shit was going on for how long? And multiple entities. There's still some entities today that have not failed, that everybody knows have a lot of corruption in them, and yet its number go up. Its number go up, man. Come on, bro. Its number go up. And that's all it's about. And as long as that's all it's about, and it's not about the fundamentals of what we can actually do with this fucking technology, then you're going to get more SBFs. And guess what? You're all going to lose billions of dollars. And it's an individual thing. The solution is every fucking person out there has to say, okay, guess what? Shill.
Enough.
I'm not going to put my money there for fucking interest, right? Fuck that. It's stupid. It's not, I'm going to lose all my money.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also going to, the other piece of this too is like, what are we distracted from by having to worry about this right now? We're distracted from the fact that there's this other agenda out there. Another thing that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube is a complete fraud. One of probably the biggest frauds perpetrated on humanity is going on right now, and all the world is in on it, right? We have a ton of people. We have a ton of people out there who are actively trying to stop growth, to stop human flourishing, because they believe that human beings are a virus on the planet. And in reality, what we ought to be doing is trying to mine asteroids. Where
that's related to kind of the only thing that I wanted to say, which was that if you I know that even C-SPAN is just a lot of times just for show, to say things that sound pretty and stuff like that. But people don't even watch that to see what's actually being said. I watched, I guess it was Jamie Dimon, whenever they were, or something with JP Coin or something like that. Anyway, they were in Congress, they were talking. And one of our leaders and lawmakers said something that was in defense of cryptocurrency as something that as being useful and a liberating force. And so basically there was an argument like, oh, it's all a Ponzi, it's all a scheme, it's unneeded. We already have Zelle. Why do we need crypto? That kind of thing. And I want to say it was Lofgren, but it doesn't matter who it was, but they brought up a valid argument. Like, well, what about this? And what about people that are sending it to Ukraine so people can buy food over there or whatever? And the response was the most telling thing that I had seen in a long time. It was, yeah, but that's retail. And that was the whole, like, that was it. Yeah, but that's retail. As if that was like,
right.
It doesn't matter.
It's
just retail, right?
Retail is pejorative.
That's just most people. That's just the majority of people. So
right, that's just the whole
us and them,
what they
right?
know.
And so the whole thing is this us and them situation. We do have questions. We do have questions. I'm just saying, look beyond the person that's doing bad. And,
IoT is actually
don't burn the soldier or the medical professional at the stake. Look into why are they acting the way that they are acting.
And actually, IoT is going to be one of those places where people have no idea how cool this can be. Honestly, like the kind of things you can do with IoT and decentralized tech, it's going to blow people's minds about what you can do, and sort of maybe not so much popular, but what you can get away with building that nobody can stop you from building.
Yeah. So Juicy J, question. Are there any IoT blockchain startups that showcase the feasibility of combining blockchain and IoT? And frankly, I'm disappointed largely in what has been built, because I mean, IoT is a great, I'm interested in greatly in the history aspect of blockchain and the fact that we can record things so that you can trust that data. Like, say, you look at, if you're talking about climate change, that some data from Oxford was manipulated. You have various things where they were measuring things that they found out wasn't manipulated, but it was measuring heat on a heating system in above the Arctic Circle instead of it being actual heat. Things like that. But the fact that it's not on chain makes it all questionable over time, because anybody can manipulate that data, and it might have already been manipulated. And the fact that if apply certain features, like say bounties to the data for data quality, or the fact that it's assigned by a time, so okay, this is contemporaneous data. This was not collected and then recorded at the end of the year after they processed it. This was live data. That's the type of stuff that should be on chain, and IoT is that, and it's about sensors, and it's more than just your toaster and your refrigerator talking to each other.
Right. One of the best ones that I can think of right off the top of my head that's a living example is food provenance. Ranchers have a tough time dealing with the fact that they have 200 head of cattle or whatever. They send them to slaughter. And after they're in the slaughterhouse, there's no way to say that, like, my cow is what you're eating, right? But with blockchain technology, you can have reliable provenance all the way through. And there are companies that are working on building this. There are people who have already started branding their cattle with QR codes that read on blockchain, right?
Yeah, it can solve real problems, especially with that. Like that is a great example, because every now and then you hear about some manufacturer, some meat processor, beef processor, getting caught slipping horse in there just to, it's like a drug dealer cutting their cocaine.
Or like
with,
if there's a break
powder
like
or
mad cow disease,
with
you
like
don't have to kill the
baking
whole
powder.
herd. You just need to stop the infected animals. But if you don't know where they're from, then you have to say, like,
the accountability of the data, like to make it to where you can't just like cook the books or stuff like that. And I know that happens, cooking the books or whatever. That happens every freaking day, because honestly, we used to do it every now and then when I was in the Navy to make things look a certain way in the logbooks, because it was all just whatever somebody said at the end of the day. So it's a real problem.
And IoT helps because depending on what you're recording, there are even ways to make it more independent, not fakeable. I mean, it's signed by a device that you can't get the key to. So it'd be very hard for someone to manipulate the data with a plan, right? You can't go back and do it. So if all that data is coming in live, it's more meaningful. IoT's that. So.
That's one of the biggest.
The other cool thing it can do is,
I think that's throughout history, it's always the little things that criminals have used the most. It's like, oh, we'll use the back door. We'll use the servant's entrance. Oh, we'll use it's always this thing that people, everyone protects the front door. Everyone, has eyes on the main thing. But this is the most, this is one of the biggest things I think in history. And I did a review like probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And this is even crazier. But this one project was talking about how like artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things together, it's something like nuts. That's science fiction. If there is any kind of singularity, even if it's not like a full singularity.
Oh, there's got to be a singularity.
It's stuff from like, oh, my toaster now has some kind of, consciousness. It's literally with the
Anybody
Internet
who thinks we're not
thing,
going to figure that out isn't paying attention.
It's nuts. But also those are the easiest things we can see now. That's one of the easiest ways for people to hack into your main system. Lee, I thought Lee was nuts. He kept talking about how the light bulb was talking to him, and then all of a sudden, it was a smart light bulb. He put the microphone there. There was Russians coming through the light bulb.
Right.
The security thing,
the filament itself was resonating, right?
The funniest thing about that subliminal is the subliminal has to teach you the language first. And then
That'd be a great way to learn Russian. Actually,
well, a microphone is also it's like a microphone, also a speaker, and a speaker is also a microphone.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, there could be a microphone.
Not a very good one, but I
said you probably have. There's a microphone probably in that light bulb, and you're just.
It also depends.
It's also connected to your phone, and it can activate your phone's microphone.
Yes and no, Sean. Like that's true technically, but it still has to be like there has to be a designed.
Literally,
you have to be able to like have an input from your speaker for it to be.
It can also be correlated to your IP address, which can also be correlated to your Amazon, your Amazon Alexa device. And if you can capture both streams, then you can figure out what people are saying.
Not only do they have unlimited money printing capabilities, so you think, okay, they could do anything they want, but to further humiliate us, they make us pay for the fucking Orwellian infrastructure.
You pay for it and install it yourself. That's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
really
the other really interesting IoT cases are probably, and people don't think about these everyday objects that we always use, right? Like you have a car that you might go downtown to a place with metered parking and park at. You got to have quarters and you got to deal with the bullshit. And you have to have parking enforcement, right? What if instead of all of that, your car had a wallet that you kept topped up, or that had permission to access your wallet, and the meters, had a little bit of a near field communication radio in it that pinged your car, and your car paid for parking.
Yep.
What if you never had to worry about not having parking paid for?
Yeah, the efficiency of that, like not even just removing the middle person, but the actual just time-wise efficiency for the end user of that kind of stuff is fantastic. I used to think that
Dragon Chain's already capable of building stuff at that scale. So.
It really, really is. It really, really is. And I like before blockchain, before it got popular anyway. I'll just say excluding blockchain individual, my brain is not thinking right now. I used to think that IPv6 and IoT together were going to be the thing that made everything streamlined and everything super convenient, because then everything could have an IP address. It's not behind some NAT translation layer where somebody has to have a firewall rule for you to access that particular device. You could just always access your toaster, right? As an example. That's not a very good example, but you could leave your house, and as long as you had an internet connection somewhere, you could still access your IoT thing without having to go in and learn how to even access. Like people don't know how to access a router.
Ideally, they all have satellite receivers and transmitters in them.
Well, and something can I say too, and this is as to hype freaks we need to educate people. It's the weirdest thing, and this is a very human thing, but even when we are interim for what Greg described about that parking meter, that they still remain with and this is the funny thing, because if I had my wallet and the car could just talk to the freaking meter and pay, it could be literally metered, instead of it being an expiration time. They literally retain an expiration time.
Streaming payment.
If you overstay your visit, even though, I paid it, and you even know who I am, and I could pay more, but I'm 30 minutes late and now I have a $12 ticket. Right. It's the funniest thing to me that humans don't say, why doesn't it just keep charging instead
but
of.
Then does that get into exploiting your privacy then?
Well, no,
because then you're being tracked everywhere you go, and
Sure, it
your
doesn't have to.
address.
Convenience and security.
You can use differential
Right.
privacy.
Trade-off.
You can use differential privacy. Like you can design these systems so that all they know is that this car paid, and they don't have to know whose car it is.
Right.
The idea is because you can't avoid enforcement. If you want to use the parking smart contract, you have to authorize them to take the fee too.
Yeah.
Well, that's where cryptography and blockchain and stuff like that comes in, to where you can address some of the privacy concerns with this technology.
And
on
if you
top
don't
of
have enough to pay the
IoT,
fee
on top
in your
of
account, then they won't let you park.
Yeah.
And in fact, it is one of the more difficult things with not only building the systems. It's very doable that plug into a very complex arrangement of existing infrastructure, different types of people, different technical capabilities. Is grandma going to have a mobile app to pay for parking? It's like, no, she still has to be able to put a quarter in there, right? That type of stuff. And that, that's all doable. But worse than that are the gate holders, the people who say, oh, we don't want that. Why? Oh, because, I want to be able to say that we have this many meter readers out there, right?
Because they don't want the bookkeeping involved in that on their side either.
Because there's a bureaucracy that pays people, and they think those jobs are good for some reason.
Yeah.
Come on. Bureaucracy jobs should not be something people should be allowed to waste their lives on.
Well, that's the reason I sympathize with people that detest capitalism, right? The corrupt capitalism, the
crony capitalism, corporatism,
the crony capitalism, the breed of we're going to keep this around not because it's good for anyone, but because it's good for me, and I'm going to capitalize on everybody else's inconvenience and suffering.
And that's why I would tend to frame it better as it's a free market, it's a liberty-based market, because if it was, let's say you reset. The fact is, if my car can speak to a meter, you could very easily, the actual best system would be, I can choose to have Rockstar parking and pay more, so there's a competition for it, or I'm going to park down the block where it's a nickel an hour instead of the $1 an hour, and that's my choice, and that's what you should want.
Or imagine this, you have a parking, you live downtown, you have reserved parking for yourself, but you're not there because you go to work or whatever, you leave for the day. Why can't your own meter go up as a space that's available?
Yep.
Why can't can't you sell your
better
parking?
For everybody. Yep.
We have that issue here in Gainesville, where when we have game day,
we need better utilization.
When the Gators are playing a home game, there's always people flying signs that say $20 to park, $20 to park.
Yep.
Anybody who has any parking spaces at all. But then there's a parking lot at all of the startup hubs, or there's parking lots basically that are private parking lots for a company. And if it's on the weekend, they're only open Monday through Friday, and they're empty. Nobody can park there, and they're empty.
And you can't tell me that those companies wouldn't love to monetize their parking lot.
Yeah.
Hey, you got employee of the year. You get a private parking spot for next year. Maybe that can come with monetizing your parking spot too. That'd be great.
When I was at Disney, we got you got to live in the park in the building across the street or underneath. If you were new, you had to park across the street and walk over, right? So I was there for about a year, and then I had been there long enough, so I got a parking inside. But it was the thing about it was, okay, it's great. I get to park somewhere. It's easy parking, but that on the weekends, or if there's some event in Seattle that you could then, you had a parking space, and it was primo because everybody else is scrambling to find a place. And theoretically you could sell it, but there was no real way to sell it, which there should have been, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'll give it to somebody for whatever.
Well, and picture this, you can take it a step further than that. Let's say, because we have all this on chain, we know all the parking's full. You've got your car trying to find the best parking space. What if it says, okay, you're going to have to park 5 miles away in this space. It's going to cost you this much, and if you're willing to accept this, we've already called you a ride share to get you to your actual destination.
Yep. Yeah, when you think about it, and your car could drive.
All of
you
that becomes
there.
possible.
You're not rolling around in the parking lot waiting for reverse lights for somebody to pull out, and you're like, oh, I gotta go in.
Right, and ultimately this leads to what? The end of people's misery in the parking meter enforcement division, because those people are miserable. You can't tell me they aren't. Nobody likes them. Like,
was one of the craziest things I think in my local personal
anti-human flourishing
life. We have this festival every year here in my town. It's huge. It's called Rabbit Fest, and there's like tens of thousands of people that come, and it's the city park, which is less than a mile from my house. But a friend of mine, and then one of my kids now, it's like their kid, like their best friend. They live right next to the city park. The guy used to be the dog catcher, but he has a huge parking lot driveway, because it's literally right next to the driveway to city park. So parking used to be, I think it was like free when I was a kid, and then it was $1. Now it's like $5 or $10 to pay to park in the park for Rabbit Fest. And like I said, I don't live that far. But people would park on the side of the road. They made that illegal. There's a 7-Eleven up the road that people would sometimes park across from the 7-Eleven. But we used to just go park at my friend's house. It's right there. And for like 20 years. And then a couple of years ago, they like, no, you can't go here. I was like, no, it's my friend's house. It's fine. Like, okay, well, let me see your driver's license. I'm like, what? Like, you can't park here if this isn't your house. I'm like, this is my friend's house.
I'm visiting my friend.
It's his property. Like, no, you're not allowed to. If you don't live here, you can't park your car here.
Yeah, that's when I was like, oh, I'm in a car. I'm just gonna keep moving. I'm like, you can step aside.
Cool story, bro.
Right.
So you go fuck yourself.
So another fun use case that people don't think of is anytime there is a monopoly that needs to be disrupted, that has the protection of some stupid authority.
Regulator.
Like, you guys remember the first guy who was the CEO of Uber, right? Who they threw out basically, and said, like, this guy is just toxic because he doesn't want to work with bureaucrats. He even built an app, or into their app, like a local transportation bureaucrat avoidance thing where they would try to order a ride and they couldn't find one.
Whoa.
Right. Technology disrupting a monopoly, right? Because these were people who were there to protect the cab industry, and the cab industry did not want these people there, and the regulators agreed with them. Or city council saying dockless scooters can't come here.
Regulators
that sort of thing.
Agreed with them.
Guess what happens when you have a decentralized system that powers this? There's nobody who you can point guns at to stop. You can build this disruption directly in. Drop your dockless scooters powered by blockchain. See what the city council wants to do about it. Nothing.
We live in the U.S. where there's literally written laws and regulations against monopolies and antitrust and things like that. And it's the craziest, ironic thing that without the help of the government and the regulators and stuff like that and the bureaucrats, it's hard to maintain a monopoly without help from the government, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, we have this facade of like, oh, free market, anti-monopolistic values, but just barely under the surface, you have literally the central government in like helping monopolies exist and maintain their monopoly. Yep. It's the craziest thing. Yep. I mean, there's crazy things, but it is a crazy thing.
We're talking about the perception. I think just a decade or two ago, like the word monopoly, or how we thought about it, was much worse. Like sounds a little bit like monopoly. Now it's like, it sounds a little like monopoly. Yeah, well, whatever. That means they know what they're doing.
That's the way
Obviously,
it is.
They're a monopoly for a reason. They're doing a good job.
By the way,
I think how
self-driving cars are themselves IoT, so that's so great. But they're not using blockchain as of yet. So I think it's
Hyperion Frequency did ask for an example of somebody who's doing that. The only one that I could think of was Helium, and it's a good example. They're not doing any ledgering of the actual network, the data and stuff like that that's being transferred, but they're using it as a way to decentralize the access to the network in a way that you can pay a helium token or whatever it's called to access their IoT network, their LoRaWAN or LongFi or whatever they call it. And that one's pretty cool. I one of these days, I still want to put up a transceiver. I've got a lot more stuff going on right now to manage and catch up on before I do that. But they've got a cool thing, man, and that their tech uses a frequency that can go for miles with just one transceiver. It's low bandwidth. You're not going to be watching YouTube on it. It's not Wi-Fi, but it's great for sensors. It's great for a community scooter system to where if you want to like pick up an electric bike for transportation, like parking meters, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's one. I don't know if it's a company or just an organization or how they're structured, but they're doing that. And they are expanding that with a different network that they're starting to package. I think they got Samsung on board to help them out, nice. But they're packaging in the same like Bobcat miners and stuff like that. Third-party companies that are making compatible hardware. They're packaging their IoT network, the Helium network, with a new one. I think it's called Mobile or something, but it's decentralized 5G hotspots. And it's not IoT, but it's like it's in the I guess it's in the spirit of IoT where network access is just something that's around. It's something that just kind of publicly exists. Anybody can use it. Even if you have to pay for it, anybody can pay for it without having to have an account. As a scientist, I can go deploy
ubiquitous. Because that was the thing.
Sensors in a field or something.
With a lot of the IoT, when
people can put up their own sensors, and you can make sure that they all connect and are storing the right kind of data.
Pre crypto, even that was one of the big issues with doing anything IoT is that there was not a ubiquity of connectivity yet. Mm-hmm. So you can't do a lot if you don't have enough battery power, and you can't talk to something to push the data that you're collecting. So
yeah, people still had to like manually connect it to their home Wi-Fi and stuff like that. It needs to be something that you can just deploy, and it knows how to be on the network just wherever it is.
Yeah, the Helium miners are constantly, I guess whoever the developer was, they went through some transition and they've like abandoned it, and so now it's this very like organic project because we have a few and have some friends that have some, and it's like a bunch of coders like on Discord going, hey man, helping each other out and going, well, try this, but you're constantly like every morning my husband gets online, checks, make sure it's connected, running, and then sees if he needs to do something to like get it going again. Like it's not perfect. It's not like just a plug and play thing. It's very
cool,
that's
a question.
Yeah, there's a lot of
some
engineering
people love
to be
that
done
kind
in
of
some
stuff.
cases to get these things working the right way.
So,
right? Because most of them are built around the idea of authentication and authorization first, and what we're talking about doing is automating the authorization and authentication part.
Yeah, you can still have that, just not predatory.
Right.
Okay, so Jacob Wayne, not super familiar with IoT, but I've heard y'all talk about it on a show before. Is it a blanket term for Alexas, Siris, Wi-Fi stoves, fridges, etc., or a bigger picture going on? And I think literally it is, Internet of Things. So
there's
whatever
a bigger picture going
things would be what would apply. So if a thing has some type of connectivity to either ingest info to improve how that thing does what it does, or if it is delivering info in order to improve some other system, that's what it
remote
is.
Switches become a really popular element of this. Remote switches, remote sensors, and anything that you can hook that to. Like right now, the easiest way to conceptualize it is to think of things that already exist and upgrade them to smart. But the really probably most groundbreaking things are going to be the things that become appliances that didn't used to be, or even as crazy as it sounds, disposable Internet of Things devices, which could be like right now, I've got a can of soda. How useful would it be in an inventory system if there was an IoT device built right into that?
Or a reward system where Dr. Pepper can reward you for taking that sip that you just
whoever opens the can automatically signs with their key if they've got it connected to their Mountain Dew smart contract or whatever, right? Like it sounds absurd. And some of the examples sound really silly, and they're going to be really trivial things that come out of it too. But if you take that metaphor and you extend it to all of the things that people do and use, you'll find some fucking magic in there.
Yeah, and anywhere you have to have a human go check on something to see what's up manually is a candidate for IoT retrofit, I guess. You know,
and it is pulling the internet down to the physical level. Like, say, one of the big and really good use cases that that I've seen is, you know, NFC checkpoints for physical security. So they're walking around a museum at night, they're checking in. So literally, we know that device tapped this this place on a wall somewhere, so we know that they were there. And you put that on chain, and you can't manipulate it. And now theoretically, insurance rates should go down. Right.
That would be great in the Navy when people used to sleep on watch.
Do you think the powers that be would create a Stingray device for IoT?
Sure. You mean would or will or have already?
Both.
IoT actually, like IoT plus Stingray devices like that. Actually, blockchain would be a great way to secure privacy, right? In that respect, because you can have a unique entry. I mean, we think of them as NFTs, right? But if your NFT registration for your tower is attempted to be duplicated by somebody, you can't do that. Like, you can't cheat it.
That's exactly, the two of you made probably something that I should have even thought to bring up, because every time I see this in a new product, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, don't buy that one. That literally right now, because none of it's on chain, you know, go to Amazon and you know, order some Christmas lights or some Christmas thing, and it's internet enabled. Oh, that means I can do this thing with, you know. It's like, no, that means it's phoning home and, you know, trying to get into your Wi-Fi so that the CCP can, you know.
I was to say, yeah, you know where that's coming from. I was about to say that. You know where those lights are coming from.
Well, that's where it's built
to your system.
Yeah. Like, that's what they're actually.
That's why we need open source to be a big key part of it.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, here's a gripe of mine. And this is important because open source.
You mean IoT, we gripe on this show? Come on.
Listen to this. You can go look at a thread. The only time that I've had an interaction with Vitalik on Twitter, and I'm proud to say that he responded to a tweet of mine once, and it blew me away. This is freaking Vitalik.
Right? You got in a fight with me on Twitter once.
Well, he was telling me, oh, it's like you don't want to, you know, be overly dogmatic about open source with a company like Zoom. So Zoom was essentially, and you know, you can look up all the stuff that they did in China with the CCP and in Hong Kong, I should say, where they were coming in. They weren't only listening in. When these people in Hong Kong were, you know, talking amongst themselves, whoever the rep was, the agent from the CCP, broke into their meeting, right? So he's like, he was listening. He's like, hey, you guys can't talk about this or whatever. I don't know what they did, but it's creepy as hell. And so this came out in the US. It's like, wait a minute. And they found out there were back doors in closed source code, both for mobile, for desktop, which is why Dragon Chain policy, security policy, nobody can use Zoom on any Dragon Chain equipment or meeting or anything else. And they came back and said, oh, we took that out. We don't have that back door anymore. Trust us. And I would understand if somebody like fucking Mr. Wonderful would say, oh, that's good enough. I trust them because I make money with them, right? But somebody like Vitalik, to counter my point, is like, okay, we'll trust you when you fucking open source that. Let's see it for real. It's like, if you really mean that and open source it. And he's like, oh, come on, they're doing better. It was like, the fuck is this?
But that's where that like IoT thing with self-driving cars, and then like Japan, too much love for
the establishment sometimes.
You know, I mean, can you imagine if they hack a bunch of cars and get them to run into each other and cause, you know, what I mean, that's all possible.
Well, there's been
it's not just turning your air conditioner off on your home. There are much more devious things that are.
There's been stuff about that, like OnStar, you know, from back in the day, and like the cars get locked, and you know, it's like in a movie or whatever, and then the brakes lock up, and
which GMC just changed it to be mandatory. They upped the price on their vehicles, and OnStar is now mandatory for you to purchase on your new vehicle.
You can't deactivate it.
You cannot. It's part of the purchase.
Well, I mean, I guess you could probably go into the circuitry yourself. Like, if I had that situation and I had any interest in buying a GMC vehicle, which I don't, I would cut open the speaker and literally snip the cable.
Like, say, as an example, Tesla should open, they're already running Linux, so the base of it's open, but it's closed above that. They should open source that up, maybe hold some proprietary modules or something, of course. But if they open sourced it, it would allow people to hack in improvements, number one, and you could apply governance to it so that things that were maybe outlandish is like, no, guess what? We don't want that to be possible with a car on the road, right? You could have governance applied.
I don't know.
Like Hyperion
I'm skeptical of the fact that they're not open source, right? Because I don't believe in the OpenAI proposition that that they can't open source everything because it will be abused by bad actors. Like,
I agree.
That was I think the wrong way to go, right?
I agree.
DALL-E 2 is a cool piece of software that could be cooler if people could recycle the model without having to build it themselves. Yeah, like those guys can afford to use all those tensors to train it.
Yeah, you have competitors building stuff that is open source for stuff like that. DALL-E has,
but DALL-E has like TPU access that is out the wazoo, right? They're funded so hard that there's no way you can.
Funding is a different,
those models.
Well,
it's difficult
thing too.
For people to volunteer a competing product that's open source.
The thing with open source and the culture around it that hasn't been tapped into enough at all, in my opinion, and which blockchain really can help with is monetizing that. Like, you think how much money Minecraft would have made if they would have made a standardized API for mods and monetize it, put it in a freaking marketplace. So if you come and develop better stuff for it, you can get a cut of it, and you were just making a fee.
Right.
It would have been tremendously more than what they make on.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, PlayStation has the same issue, right? Like they won't even allow people to import unapproved assets. Like, and the problem that I have with all of it is they base their refusal to do this. Like, OpenAI does not want DALL-E 2 to be able to produce political messages. They don't want to be able to produce anything resembling gore. They don't want it used for porn. Like, and I say, those may not be the best things to have existing in the world, but the alternative is a system where they control it and they gatekeep it. And that's, ultimately what the real point of blockchains is to make it impossible to have gatekeeping intermediaries in positions of power decide what everybody else can have.
The biggest things, I think Greg said when Lisa talked about that, Greg's like, I would go in and I would do this. You are speaking a foreign language to like most people. Everyone on this panel is like smarter and knows a lot more about definitely technology stuff.
Dude, I could post a YouTube video right now about how to access your OnStar microphone. Anybody who wants to clip that thing.
But dude, most people would be so scared to try it that they wouldn't look it up.
That's 100%
like true. Hyperion said, it's about education. Lisa, do you know what a stingray is?
No, I have no idea when you guys were talking about that.
And that's by design. The government has arrested people because of using the stingray device, and then there's been people that have given a confession, 100% guilty, but then their lawyer says, "Oh wait, they used a stingray." They changed it to not guilty, and they're going to fight it. The government drops the charges rather than talk about the use of the stingray.
Right, because they don't want to expose how it works.
They don't want anyone to know about it. They don't want to talk about it, even because that's grassroots.
Yeah, now you have to tell me what a stingray is.
Lisa, a stingray device is like a spoofed cell tower.
Yeah.
It pretends to be your service provider, but is actually a listening post.
Yeah, it's like a white van.
It's all your information like a cell tower would from your phone.
And they can fit inside of like
they send out a signal
pencil now.
And when you're driving around,
that's like
around,
when they're doing those smart meters that they demanded everybody put in their home now. that could be Stingray devices on everyone's home.
Well,
and any Wi-Fi network can become a Stingray device.
And by the way, any device you put in your home, you have to assume it's compromised. They might not have compromised it, for your sake. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm not doing it.
I would have thought you were talking crazy tinfoil hat until I heard my friend's light bulb talk to him. Yeah. Funniest thing is that I talked to Roger Ver, and I talked Roger Ver into giving him an interview. And as soon as he comes on, he's like, "Hi, how you doing? My name's Lee. And then he's like, "Fuck, the fucking light bulb's talking to me again," and he froze. It's like, "Excuse me? Do you hear it? Do you hear the light bulb? Do you hear it talking to me?"
Oh my gosh!
I swear, not an exaggeration. Because I never heard.
That was immediately what he got.
Roger goes.
Yeah, he was like, and then he's like explaining it, and then he's like, "Okay, forget about it.
Okay, dude.
Let's move on."
That's hilarious.
But yeah, it was.
But yeah,
I can tell you stories of our printer at when we had an office at WeWork, and some of you have heard the story probably, and.
I mean, I've heard other stories about printers, but yeah,
it's we didn't know it was the
funniest
printer.
story.
We knew something was bugged.
I literally just had a white van go past my house.
It's just a painter. It's fine.
A printer just flew over my house.
Yeah.
No, we were told by our lawyers that something was bugged, and we're like, this is our lawyers telling us this, and we're like, well, okay. So we started looking around, and we didn't figure it out for a bit, but it was the printer. Anyway.
So then, because they told your lawyer, does that make it okay?
No, they didn't tell the lawyer. The lawyers
say, "Hey, look."
They saw other activity that would only happen if something.
If somebody,
I remember so like a long time ago. I mean, way back when the government could be trusted. At least I trusted them. And it was like the 90s, early 90s, maybe late 80s,
1800s.
And they
That's
went.
Sweet,
they went back. Yeah, it was way back in the 1900s, man. So, but they this person got a bunch of trashed cable boxes where everyone used to have cable. Everyone had cable boxes. And they were from the dump. They were like, I think it was like 30. And like 12 of them had microphones built in. This is the 90s. That's like nowadays, I guess you could say that. But he was like, why are there microphones in these cable boxes? What's the point? And they were like, oh, it's for future technology that maybe, which that kind of makes sense now.
It's just on the board.
Back then, that's not.
No, it wasn't really a thing back then. Yeah.
I'll tell you, more recently, I believe it was Nest had to answer for the questions like, why do you have these mics in the Nest device? Mm-hmm. And there was no reason for them to have mics in there, and they did, and they made up something, of course. But
yeah, I remember when the thermostats came out, and Google I think bought the thermostats, and because they wanted the information, and I was like, why would they?
Amazon has Ring, Google has Nest, so
yeah, and it just to me it was like. That was like, that's like all my, we want to know everything. Like, you want to know the temperature in my house?
By the way, I'm going to say I can guarantee to you, I am like 90% certain of this. That was a committee sitting around was like, oh shit, they know there are microphones in there. What's the reason? It's like, Alexa, we'll put a utility into that.
Create a yeah, because we need to be able. We're doing it for you.
If you know the microphones are there, you can say what you want to them. That's the thing, right? Like the key is knowing they're there.
Yeah, and all of this is just an example of what you have to think about whenever, like, okay, IoT, great idea, super convenient, really handy, streamlining workflows and stuff like that. Right. But you got to think about what it really means. Like, what does it mean that everything now is on the network? That everything in your house, in your yard, on your street, the sidewalk itself is now on the internet. That can
blockchains could
that brings up
provide a certain security, right? Because
that brings up a question that I wonder now is that, and I remember seeing this. I don't know whether it was a dream or it was a real thing, but I think it was a real thing. It was a pepper mill, and you could turn it, and it blocked the Wi-Fi signal.
Huh.
And it was like it was. I remember the commercial. Whether I dreamt it, I'm pretty sure it was real. That it was like, hey, when it's dinner time, whatever, you could turn this, and it turn your kids are just like, hey, what's going on? I can't access anything. Or like, well, it's dinner. I guess put it down. And then after dinner, they turn the pepper mill, and it allowed access. Why, with all the problems, and even your regular Joe admits that there's untrustworthy stuff that you can say, hey, I remember this from 20 years ago. Wasn't that a good movie? And then all of a sudden, on your phone, it brings up an ad for that old movie you saw. So everybody knows it's there. Why hasn't some company come out with just a dampener or a blocker that goes on a key fob, or that you can turn on in your house whenever? Because if you want to talk, have a private conversation, just to be sure.
I'll give you a reason that's half bullshit, but a half relevant too. It's the same reason where at the beginning of today's episode, where Greg was talking about this new legislation, COSA, that was going through to like prevent kids from seeing the wrong shit or whatever, because there doesn't seem to be a willingness to give parents the responsibility to do those things, to govern their households and stuff. You want some company to make sure that it's done for them. There'll be some solution where like you can program through Google hours of operation for your Wi-Fi where it turns it off and on. But it's just like, I don't know, people, this is defeatist and negative for me to say, but like people don't want to take responsibility for shit and do it themselves anymore. They want something that does it for them.
You can buy a little jammer device that would jam most maybe of those frequencies. I don't know.
I'm sure you could,
but that's RF. Those are illegal because you're
everybody needs to be raising, like, you know what the biggest red flag is, guys.
It's a real thing,
too, right? Is anytime you hear someone raising one of the four horsemen of the infopocalypse, right? Terrorism, pedophilia, organized crime, and what's the other one? Oh, drug dealers. They'll raise all four of those, the four horsemen of the infopocalypse, and that if you're hearing them saying this is a way to fight that by doing something to the way we regulate the web, red flags out.
Yeah, and the red flag is the fact that they don't actually give a shit about any of that stuff.
Right, they don't.
They'll use our government to organize poppy fields in Afghanistan. They won't actually expose who was in that little black book of Ghislaine Maxwell. So they don't give a shit about it, but they will use it all they can.
But they're perfectly happy to exploit people's fear of those four things.
The pepper mill's a real thing. I just put it in the private chat.
The internet not safe for people.
A link to the commercial. Yeah.
It's probably powered. It's probably
It's from 2016.
Okay, let's see here.
The Pepper Mill Wi-Fi blocker is from 2016.
We're running on. Oh man, we have 3 minutes left. So let's see here. Where can everyone follow you? Let's just go clockwise. Dave.
Yep. Den.Social, Den.Social. I am distant over there on Den.Social. You can go check it out and see what I'm writing in the coffee layer. Coffee with Den is a little casual morning talk show where some people that have accounts on Den hop on and have coffee together Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m.
He's not distant over there. He's actually quite accessible.
Yeah, I'm very close. Yes. Very close with Den, near and dear to my heart. I think it's a really good solution for a lot of the fuckery that we're seeing, for lack of a better term, in the world. It's one of many options, and so check them all out. Maybe you'll like Den. Later today, we'll have a governance call about that platform, and that will be on Den's. It'll be over in the Den DAO layer on Den. Should I say Den again? Den.
Awesome.
Greg, what is up?
All right, well, you can always find me as Design Heretic on any platform Good Times are had. My favorite two are Den and Twitter. So those are the places you're most likely to find me actually watching. But if you really are desperate to send me a message on LinkedIn that I don't get back to for like 3 or 4 months because I only go on there once in a while, you're welcome to do that too. And Design Heretic is still how you find me. As far as anything else, I just wanted to say, like, check this shit out. Got this like keep calm and encrypt shirt just came in from the good folks over at WikiLeaks. They need your donations right now because they've literally had content starting to drop because the infrastructure is expensive and they haven't the necessary resources to maintain it. So highly recommend anybody who wants to have some cool merch go over there and pick up a t-shirt because it helps them keep it online.
I just heard that I can't remember what it was. Something just recently disappeared over there, if I remember right. But I didn't check it out. But I was like, Lisa, what is
it? Would be cool if Elon was dropping WikiLeaks on Twitter. He said he was going to start dropping some information. So you can find me at Lisa Mighty Davis on Twitter and at on Den.Social as well in the Mighty Lair. And also I'm the host for the Very Dow YouTube channel. And we've been having some great interviews over there talking about the amicus that we filed, which is pretty historical in the SEC versus Ripple case. And like I said, I just had that interview with Nick from ICANN, and Reggie's in that talking about that rehypothecation that happens over there at Coinbase with Maker and all that. So that was a very interesting interview we just did. So you guys can check that out as well. And Sean and I are together every Tuesday.
Excellent. Sean.
Is there a WikiLeaks Den? Because there should be. That would be good.
There should be. We should do that.
No, there's not.
Also, that'd be a good partnership for Dragon Chain and WikiLeaks. That'd be cool. You can find me on Satoshi Sean everywhere. You can find lots of Satoshi Sean's with underscores and 2 S's and everything else. And when they ask you for money, just cuss at them, talk crap about their parents. Don't send me screenshots, and I know they're terrible. Just report them. And or Lisa, Lisa, when they want you to talk to her on WhatsApp, it's not her either.
It's
yeah. Either one of us.
And don't send me money either.
You can send me money, but I'm not going to ask for it. I just asked for it, didn't I? No, I didn't ask for it. I said you could. I allowed it.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's about it. I got an interview coming out I think today where I just talked about stable coins. And then I talked about how it's terrible that we built, we built this house on Tether, which we shouldn't have done. And, I've talked about it while it was happening. But, yeah, that's me.
Excellent. All right. I'm Joe. Make sure you watch us again next week. Make sure you share this. It'll air a couple more times, live stream to most of the platforms or some of the platforms. But make sure you share it, because the more views it gets, the more lot you will get. And anyway, just make sure you watch it again next week. And I guess listen to the Den DAO. I think there are at least one subject that I was going to bring in today that I think is interesting. It's at least interesting potential. So anyway, I think that's it. Sorry I failed. We went over the 5 minutes past the $1.50. So
I thought it was 1:38. I thought it was 8 minutes.
It's 5 minutes. It's like
it's a war of attrition. We're all trying to pass you up in the amount of ownership that you have in the layer.
I know.
We're just trying to make sure that you never finish on time, so we can finish ours.
Yeah, it's an attack on your bonus.
Awesome.
I think
it's a conspiracy.
I think you go back. It's 38. I'm like 90% sure it's 38.
Really? Well, look. Okay. All right. Goodbye.
We better go then.
While nuclear weapons states can exert unlimited violence over even millions of individuals, strong cryptography means that a state, even by exercising unlimited violence, cannot violate the intent of individuals to keep secrets from them. Cryptography is the ultimate form of non-violent direct action.